All right, everybody, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for joining us for a new release rundown after Table Takes. We're joined by a representative from Blue Highway Games. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dante Enriquez. I'm the Magic the Gathering specialist at Blue Highway Games, but I also am learning to love board games as much as I do card games. Blue Highway Games is just a little local game store up in Queen Anne.
Mm-hmm. And I hear you just moved here from Arizona?
Yes, yeah, I just moved here 67 days ago from Phoenix, Arizona, Tempe specifically. So we transitioned from 121 degrees the day we left to about 60 degrees the day we got here. So it definitely is a little bit of a transition, but I'm loving Seattle so far.
As a hot-blooded person, I say that this is the proper ratio translation that you should follow to go to a much colder climate.
Yeah, I am enjoying it. I am definitely... I'm definitely more of a person that enjoys to wear some sweaters and extra layers of clothing. So
correct.
I'm
You're in
so
the
far.
correct city now.
Yeah.
And you were saying that it's much more like oppressively overcast and kind of gloomy here, and you weren't sure how you're going to deal with that over the first winter here. But guess what? There's a solution for that. It's called board games. You play them inside.
Yeah.
So you brought a bunch of games. And which one would you like to share with us first?
Well, I'd love to start off bright and colorful with Team 3.
All right.
So in Team 3,
let me see.
Yeah, it's you and a team of 2 other people. It's really a team building game.
Okay.
And it reminds me of the activities that I used to do as an RA in college for all the kids their freshman year.
So it's all about cleaning up puke?
Yes, exactly. All about cleaning up puke. No, it's about kind of learning to communicate better with your friends and family in a somewhat hectic fashion.
Okay.
So you and your team are 3 monkeys who decide to start a construction company. And
as monkeys do.
As monkeys do. And also as monkeys do, they didn't necessarily think it all through because one monkey can't see, and that's the only monkey who can actually touch these Tetris-like pieces.
Okay.
One monkey can't speak, and that's the monkey who brought all the blueprints to the construction site. So you have a monkey in the middle who's going to try to translate what the monkey who sees the blueprints doing to the monkey who can't see and tell that monkey how to construct their building.
Okay. So let's do that real quick. Why don't you just grab a card?
All right. Let's grab this one.
Okay. What am I doing?
So, so we need like a third person to be
we're gonna pretend.
real. All right. So you are looking for, so your eyes are going to be closed.
Yep. My eyes are closed.
So you're going to be looking for a black piece.
Well, the black's not going to help me because I can't see.
That's right.
Black.
That's
What's
right.
the shape?
But you're looking for like a small T shape. You actually have it in your hands.
Great. Got it.
All right. So you're going to set that aside.
Yep.
You're going to look for a plus shape. You're going to move your left hand.
Got it.
Oh, you got it. Perfect. You're great at this game. You're looking for a small elbow piece. So you can.
Got it.
Perfect. So you can set the little pink T piece just on the table right in front of you.
Wait, I thought T was black.
The plus piece.
Okay,
Excuse
great.
me.
Plus.
So plus piece.
Yep.
So right now it's kind of like an X, so rotate that
Got
45
it.
degrees.
Okay, yep.
Yep, right there.
Yep.
And then that little elbow piece, you're going to rotate it about 90 degrees. Yep, exactly like that. You're going to put it underneath to the right of the pink piece. Perfect.
Great.
Then you're going to, there's a, we need one other piece. So you're looking for like a Z-shaped piece, not that one. You put that down. Move your hand to the right a little bit.
Oh, so
right there.
You can even tell me where to move my hand.
Exactly.
Okay,
you can tell people where to move their hand, and you're going to rotate it 180 degrees. Do it to your left. Rotate to your. No. Move. No, you just had it. Go back. And go. Get your thumb, and then move your thumb slightly right there. You're gonna put that piece on top of your little T and elbow construction.
T and elbow? Okay. Plus an elbow.
Plus an elbow, yeah. I'm
Right
bad
on
at this
top?
game. I don't even know what
There
I'm
we
talking about. And then the T is going to go upside down right on top of the piece you just put. So upside down T, so you want to flip the T over, and then put it a little bit more to your left, and right there. And we got it.
Nailed it?
We constructed it.
All right, we did it.
Yeah, so normally there's a third person, and the third person who can actually see the blueprint has to like gesture to see what pieces you're supposed to be getting.
I can see how this could get pretty ridiculous pretty fast.
Yes, absolutely. And it's 3 to 6 players, so you can compete against another team and see who can do it the fastest.
So is it timed or anything like that?
There's no timer in the box, but if you wanted to compete with people, you could just easily throw in a stopwatch.
So it looks like there's pink cards and black cards.
Exactly. So there's levels of cards. So there's 1-star cards, 2-star, 3-star cards.
Oh yeah, this would be way more difficult than what I just had to do.
And then the black cards are actually an expansion. So Team 3 is sold in 2 colored boxes, or 2 different colored boxes. So there's this beautiful hot pink, which is my favorite, but there's also a very bright lime green. Sure. Each box has different blueprints. So you could buy the game twice, or buy it for yourself, buy it for some extended family, and know that each gameplay experience is going to be a little bit different, but you could kind of combine them if you wanted to. And the black cards provide an extra sort of expansion and challenge within the base game.
So is it just a new pattern? Because the way it's drawn seems a little bit different.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a different type of pattern, and you're going to be trying to so for instance,
you have to repeat this, like a 3D pattern you have to do.
Yeah, it's like a 3D pattern you have to do.
I see. Interesting. So is this how you have to make it look from the top or something?
Exactly. Yeah, from the top.
Okay. Funky.
So Team 3 is a lot of fun, and again, it's just a great game to kind of break the ice with. If you're having a board game session where maybe someone brought some friends that you haven't met before, or if you're bringing along a partner of yours or family member, and you want to kind of get them into the groove before you go into your Twilight Imperium session, this is a great way to kind of break that ice.
So this is a great intro to Twilight Imperium, is what I hear you
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what this is for.
Interesting perspective. All right, let's see if I can get it all in.
You do have to kind of Tetris in the pieces.
I did it.
There you go.
Look at this. I'm great at this game.
Perfect. There you go.
All right. What would you like to do next?
Yeah, so next up, we're going to jump over here to this other
I'm
sorry. Box. Oh.
One thing that we usually ask is, what is the spite level of this
spite
game?
level, yes. So Team 3, there's not a lot of spite.
Very little spite.
Very little spite. I guess if you want to add in some house rules, the other team can kind of jeer the players while they're trying to do their construction, so that could add some spite.
So there's like a jerk level you could add on top of the house
exactly.
if you want. Okay.
But no included spite.
Okay.
Yes.
Spite not included. Got it.
So this similarly colored box is Ninetales Panic. This is an Oink game.
I was about to say, it looks like an Oink game.
Yeah, and so it's one of their slightly larger box games. So Oink, normally their games come in these very small boxes.
They're
that
like
fit
half the size of this.
Exactly, yeah. But they're starting to have games that have a little bit bigger sizes, and this is one of them.
And in case anybody's not familiar, Oink is like a Japanese design publishing house.
Yeah.
And they do these really, really colorful, like graphically interesting graphic design, just super small box games that are super clever.
Yes, exactly. And since they're so clever and because they're always so fun, I know a lot of people collect them. And a lot of people come into our store and ask for a specific, or they specifically ask to have a recommendation for an Oink game. So in Ninetales Panic, I personally love this theme because a group of aliens... Ninetales Panic, excuse me. Ninetales, I played Pokemon as a kid. I get it mixed up all the time.
You Pokemon kids.
So for Tiles Panic, a group of hamburger-loving aliens have descended upon your small town.
Those are my kind of aliens.
Exactly. And the federal alien-catching bureaucracy has sent out a group of agents to catch these aliens.
I think I found an alien.
Yes. So the aliens are these cute little things on the front. There are also Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, as you would expect in this little small town.
Hey, there's a pug.
Yep, as well as pugs. And so you have 9 colored tiles.
Well, I ruined everything.
You have 9 colored tiles, and you're trying to build a 3x3 town square based on the theme cards that you pull up. So,
so each player has their own 9 colored tiles.
Exactly. Each player has their, and I believe they're identical. So it's just kind of about who's going to build their town the fastest.
Okay.
And these theme cards, they give you different instructions for how to build your town. So this one wants you to have as many roads as possible, which are these little winding things on the squares. This card would want you to have the largest amount of aliens in a city, and this other card would want you to have the, basically just want you to finish first.
Okay.
But there are fun ones where they want you to have as many dogs in the city as possible, or because they don't want any dog to have, be without their forever home, they want you to pair them up with the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts to make sure they have an owner.
Sure.
It's a really fun, quick game.
This is a grotesquely adorable game.
Yes,
is what I'm
absolutely. You can really learn the game in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And
so it's like a tableau building game.
Yes.
Because you're building like Barron Park or maybe some of the other ones where you're kind of building your own town. But these are how many of these kind of victory conditions do you get each game?
So every single round, you draw 3 random cards off the top of the deck and then lay them on the table. And then at the end of your tableau building session, the first player who finishes their tableau will take the first player point. Whoops. And then it goes all the way down to 5. It's a 2 to 5 player game. And for whoever has the most amount of these conditions met, you get points based on how many players are in the game, starting with the player who went first. So let's say the 2 of us are playing, and I finish my tableau first, you finish second. If, let's say, I had the majority of these conditions met and you didn't, then I would get 2 points because there's 2 players in the game. And if you had any town built, you would get 1 point.
Okay.
So it always kind of keeps the players in it, and it keeps people engaged, even if they're not necessarily good at tableau building.
Okay.
Like me. I'm not very good at this game. I just really like to play it.
You just want all the dogs to get to their forever home?
Exactly. That's my constant objective.
But there's also a timer?
So when the first person finishes their town, they take this and they flip the timer. Oh, you already did so. At the conclusion of this timer, every other player has to be finished with their town, or they don't score points that round.
Okay. Do you know what the objectives are before you build your town?
You do.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're flipped over, you get to look at them for a quick second, and then you start building.
Okay. Cool.
Now, the spite level in this game, it's very adorable. You're not going to see a lot of spite built in, but when I was playing with my partner, she would get kind of flustered when the timer would start going down a little bit.
Sure.
So to make sure she didn't finish her town, you can just start talking to a friend of yours or talking about the weather, trying to get them distracted. I don't know if
mind
that's...
games is what you're telling me.
Mind games. But also, with the game, if you can kind of look at the other players' boards and know that they're really going after finding dogs their forever home. So you should try to build more roads than they do.
Sure.
So not necessarily spite, but there is a little bit of strategy.
Sure. Very cool.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a tile laying tableau building game from Oink, that's adorable, that has dogs and aliens and hamburgers.
Yes.
9 Tile Panic.
9 Tile Panic. That's
Great.
awesome. All right, now we're going to do a hard jump to something completely different. It is October. Wanted to bring some somewhat spooky games. So we're going to start off with Arkham Noir. We have case 1 and 2 here. Arkham Noir is a solitaire game where you play the role of Howard Lovecraft, and you are basically investigating murders and mysteries based on H.P. Lovecraft's many short stories and books and so forth.
But this has nothing to do with Arkham Horror, the board game, or the LCG from Fantasy Flight or anything like that?
No, nothing to do with those. This is a game where you are essentially laying out a row of clues in front of you, and you have some open cases, and you're just trying to match up the clues with similar clues to eventually unlock 5 puzzle cards to see the big picture and win the game.
Okay.
There are a couple of really cool mechanics.
But once you see the big picture, you go crazy, right?
Actually, so you can go crazy before you see the big picture.
Oh.
The lore is a little murky if you go crazy after seeing the big picture, but I'm sure it can be implied. But there are a couple of really cool mechanics in this game where you are constantly running against the clock. It is also slightly creepy. So
have you had a chance to play this?
Okay,
yeah. Great.
So I played through the first case, or we have the first case right here. I played through the first case. I haven't played through the second case. And the second case includes a couple new mechanics to try to spice up the game. One is the storm mechanic. But in the first case, in the base mechanics that carry over, you have cards that test your sanity and cards that test how much time you have left in the game. So when you have all your clues laid out in front of you, you can ever only do something with the clue that's on the leftmost of the row. And if you don't have anything that'll match up to that clue, or if you don't want to use that clue because it's going to force you to discard a card, you can discard that clue, but if it has a little time icon, you're going to start running out of time before the next murder.
Sure.
And so the longer that you take, the more mysteries and cases there are to solve, and eventually you can very easily run out of case cards, and then you lose the game because pretty much everyone's dead. You can't save anyone at that point.
So when you say case 1 and case 2, can you replay the case?
Good point, or good question. So yes, you can replay each case, and each case is a standalone game. So you're not going to mix
So
up the cards.
it's not so much like a situation where it's you uncover the case. It's not like an escape room in a box. It's not you're finding out the thing. It's just that each case has like a different theme and some different mechanics, but you can keep replaying them as many times as you want.
Exactly. I played it 5 times. I won twice. And there are different levels of difficulty you can add in as well to restrict the number of case cards that you could possibly draw, or restrict the types of clues that you get. So it's pretty interesting. And the more I played it, the more I really appreciated the time and sanity mechanics as well.
So just out of curiosity, can you like summarize kind of how an actual turn works? Like, do you? So like, what would the table look like when you were playing this?
Yeah. So you have clue cards, and you're going to have your clue deck here, and you have at least 5 clue cards out in front of you, and then you have a hand of no more than 3 clue cards.
Okay.
And then you have 2 open cases. So right now we have Frank Elwood, a student who was murdered, and Edward Pickman Derby, a poet who was murdered.
Okay. So then, these clues here, just because people can't read them, is there's like a disturbing personality change.
Yes.
There's Crown and Shield House.
There's a person you can have a conversation with. So there's all these different types of clues, and on each side of the clue card, there's little icons that describe kind of the sequence of events that's going to happen. So for this one, it's a disturbing personality change, and it specifically needs to attach to a conversation type card.
Okay.
So both of these here, but Frank Elwood, his case will start after you either do some research, which is the book icon, or you have a conversation with someone, the little bubble icon. So I know that with disturbing personality change, I can attach that to and start to play this in the case file.
So it kind of makes a chain across the table.
Exactly, yeah. And you always place cards in a chain like you mentioned to the right.
Okay.
And if you want to, you need puzzle cards to eventually win the game. So for instance, the puzzle cards are on the top right of the card here. If you want to play a puzzle card, they're always locked. So you need a key in the chain of events before you can actually unlock that puzzle piece.
Interesting.
And add it to your big picture.
So mechanically, you're basically just making a chain of icons across to get a key to unlock a puzzle piece later in that chain.
Yes.
Interesting.
And when you have, let's say you have your cards in hand, and I know that I want to play this Joel Menton teacher card, you can play that. Oh, actually, that's a case card. Let's say this one instead. Someone gets a rat bite. And all the art is pretty grotesque and kind of cool because I'm into kind of the Arkham universe, but it's definitely not for kids. If I'd seen this when I was like 8 years old, I'd be terrified. There's one card that looks like the thing on the plane from Twilight Zone. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about licensed trademark stuff.
That's fine.
But okay, cool. So there's one card that looks like the thing on the plane. If I'd seen that when I was 8, I would have had nightmares about it. And I played this game at one point on a rainy Seattle night, and I did get a little scared just looking at one card and looking outside, thinking I saw the reflection of something. So
yeah, you're gonna do great in Seattle.
Yeah, gonna do great. So if you want to play this this rat bite card, you can play it from your clue, from your clues that are displayed here. But if you wanted to play a card from your hand, you'd have to discard this card and then play something from your hand. So because this card then has a time icon, it represents you beginning to run out of time before the next murder.
Sure.
So then you have to discard it 2 times. And then after you have 5 time cards built up, a new case begins and these cards get discarded.
Okay.
If you want to play like disturbing personality change, it has a little detective kind of icon on it. That means that you have to test your sanity.
Okay.
And when you test your sanity, you just pull a card off the top. If it has the same icon on it, then you discard the card to your sanity meter, and once you have 5 cards in the sanity zone, you lose the game because you've gone insane.
Sure. And you're just trying to close all the open cases before you go insane.
Well, you're trying to get 5 puzzle pieces.
Ah, got it. Okay.
And you get the puzzle pieces by closing a case. So however many puzzle pieces with a key attached to them are in a closed case, they move to your big picture area.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, it seems really intriguing. And it also it strikes me as an interesting way to try to come up with a storyline if you were to run like a Call of Cthulhu RPG.
Yeah,
and you want some kind of maybe a randomized or maybe just kind of inspiration story.
Yeah.
You could put out some clues and see how they connect.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. And each of the cases are themed after stories. So the second case, for instance, is themed after the Diary of Alonzo Typer and The Lurking Fear from 1938 and 1923.
And which one's this one?
They're on the back.
Looks like The Dreams in the Witch House, The Thing on the Doorstep, and The Unnameable.
The Thing in the Doorstep makes sense because there is that thing that's, I think the picture is it just like slowly creeping through the door, so it's a little scary.
Cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Everybody always loves Cthulhu stuff.
Yeah.
Unless you're Emma, apparently.
So next up, and also no spite, it's a single player game.
And there's no like 2-player variant or. Okay.
No, unfortunately, no 2-player variant. You could play it next to someone who's also playing another case, but nothing else. All right.
Yes, the way you make this as a group activity is to do it adjacent to someone else also doing that activity.
Exactly. So the next one, not really as spooky, but kind of cool and could definitely be Halloween themed. Obscurio. So Obscurio, very similar to Mysterium, and I believe from the same publisher. In Obscurio, you are basically you're trying. You are a group of wizards. You, as in all the players in the game. There's a group of wizards, and you're trying to escape this evil, dastardly library run by another evil wizard with the Grimoire, which is this all-powerful book which can see the future and knows all the truths of the world.
But not the way out of the library.
It does actually know the way out of the library.
Okay.
But the Grimoire, it's a book. It can't talk to you. So one player plays the role.
Heavy-ass book.
Yeah, it's all the pieces are pretty well made, and this cardboard piece especially is pretty heavy. And so one player is taking on the role of the Grimoire. It's a hard word to say.
Grimoire.
Grimoire. So one player is taking on the role of this book, basically. And
the book.
They are getting these little kind of clue cards here, which represent different, cool things that you might see in the library. And then they have these butterfly tokens. And the Grimoire is trying to direct the wizards to the correct exit door by pointing to different elements of these pictures on the Grimoire. So, for instance, if I want to get the wizards to choose the door where we have this happy couple standing over a hot pool of magma, then I could somehow use these 2 photos and point at this person looks very distressed, as I would be if I were standing over a hot pool of magma. And let's see here. This could maybe be a bridge. So you can point down there to represent you're standing on top of something liquid. This is actually a pretty hard one. So you're trying to get the wizards to choose the right door. But there's a twist. One of the wizards is a traitor.
I love it already.
And so that traitor is hidden throughout the game and has to kind of manipulate the other wizards to choose the wrong door.
Okay.
So before you start choosing doors and before you start seeing...
But even choosing doors, this is where the doors are, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's the game board. So you have 6 different doors.
So there would be more of these cards at each door?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Grimoire draws the correct door to go through, and then draws 2 more cards to fill up the pages of the book, and then the traitor, and then points to the clues. Then the traitor gets to see 6 cards, including the correct door, and the traitor can basically start to see that, okay, well, I'm going to pick these 2 cards to make sure these 2 cards are going to be doors that I try to lead people through.
So the Grimoire player gets the right door.
Yes.
And then does that mean that the traitor player draws 6 cards and fills out the rest of the doors?
So the grimoire then shows the trader. I believe it's like 3 cards,
Okay.
and the trader gets to kind of guess which of the cards is the correct one. And so you'll see the trader will see the correct one and 2 other random ones. Then the trader will have to determine which of these cards is correct and which one's wrong, and then steer the wizards away from the correct door.
Yeah. So how does the trader steer the wizards away?
So just all through conversation.
Okay.
So once you see the clues, you flip the timer over, and you have I think this is about a 30-second game timer. You have about 2 minutes each round of doors, and the trader just has a conversation with the wizards, and since you don't know who the trader is, you can seem very, very helpful and be very convincing in that, like, okay, well, like, this door really looks like the correct one because of these
So what you're saying is,
points.
to be a trader, I should play this exactly the way that I play Mysterium, because I end up messing up everything in Mysterium, even though there isn't a trader.
Yeah, exactly. If you wind up messing things up in Mysterium, you're going to
But
be
what
great at
if
this game.
the ghost meant this, guys?
I actually always do that. And when I was first playing Mysterium, my friends, I had never played a cooperative game like that before, and I assumed there was someone who had to win, like a singular person. So I tried to constantly throw people off, and for about 30 minutes I was playing a competitive game of Mysterium, and we got nowhere with that. We lost.
Weird,
So
weird that happened.
yeah. So yeah, if you mess up at Mysterium all the time, you should probably be the trader. But the trader is chosen randomly.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it'd have to be. Otherwise, like, everyone's just going to assume I'm the trader all the time. So what are these?
So when you start to lose cohesion points, basically when you choose the wrong door, your team starts to get more frustrated and they lose their cohesion. As your team loses those cohesion points, you start getting these fantastical kind of pictures that go over the actual doors, so it's harder to see details.
Okay.
Sometimes you also trigger traps, which are drawn out of this blind bag here, and the traps could also include either the red filter or this little windy filter, just to kind of further confuse the wizards.
Okay.
And the trader wins when the wizards lose, and the wizards have to get through 6 doors to eventually reach the end of the library.
Cool. So this, very similar to Mysterium,
Very, very similar.
but adding the trader mechanic.
Yes.
So this would be recommended for people who liked Mysterium and want more of that, or for people who kind of wanted a competitive element to Mysterium.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, Mysterium is such a great game.
Yeah.
The only downside I see to this is, like, you are literally never sleeving these cards.
No.
And you're never storing them properly in the box, are
Probably
you?
not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I was clear on this.
Yeah, definitely that is a definite downside. Oops.
Yeah, but that book is thick.
Yeah, and I really like
So are
the
these.
pieces too. The actual butterfly tokens.
Hold
There's
on,
a slight
Just look at
magnetic
this. Yeah,
component.
I was about to say, I think it is magnetic.
Like it, the actual doors start to fall off towards the end, but the pieces will stay on.
Yep. Well, there we go.
Yeah, so it's really good quality.
Confirmed.
There you go.
My OCD requires me to take those out and sort them.
There you go. And the timer.
All right, it will now be ruined. Yeah, I saw this at Gen Con. Didn't have a chance to play it, but anything that starts off as it's Mysterium but is worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely a really fun game. And you can play this with, I think, up to like at least 8 people. You can play it with a bunch of people, and it's just more fun the more amount of people you get in, because then it just gets
Probably
chaotic.
much easier as the trader.
Exactly, and also much easier as the trader.
What would we like to do next?
All right, let's do. Well, so we start to get into some more themes of games that I brought. So I'll let you choose. Would you like to do an alcohol themed or a roll and build theme?
Can I choose neither?
I don't think you can choose.
Damn it. We can get it out of the way then.
All right. So, Homebrewers. This is an
Box
engine
2.
building and dice trading game, as they describe it.
Sure. I see lots of components.
There are a lot of components. That is the toughest part about actually setting up the game. But each person is going to get 4 little types of beer glasses, a bottle cap, and then a kind of just circular colored piece, which I believe is used for metals. In Homebrewers, you and your friends playing are a group of people who are just trying to brew their own beer.
Sure.
And it can be pretty tough to start out. But this game makes it easy by just letting you pick all these different types of flavors. So we have savory flavors, fruity flavors, and dessert flavors. And you just start to combine them in 4 different types of beer. So there's ale, there is porter, there's an IPA, and there's a stout. So at the end of one game, I had an oyster, caramel, and I think raspberry stout.
Is that good?
No, absolutely not. That would taste horrible
Probably
in real life.
That was my guess, but I don't drink, so who knows?
Well, points-wise, it was very good for our points.
So this game, not in any way a good choice for people who want to investigate the real options for homebrewing.
Absolutely not. That
so
is
whereas
probably the most
Arkham
important thing.
would allow us to make a pretty cool adventure, this would allow you to make a pretty gross beer.
A very gross beer. You can try to stay...
Oyster, caramel, and what?
Oyster, caramel, and raspberry.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Was that a dessert beer or a savory beer? Or a savory dessert beer?
At that point, I think it'd be a savory dessert beer with just the tiny hint of raspberry coming through at the end. I think that's what people would say.
Yep. We'll see how well the marketing does on that one.
So in Homebrewers, like I said, it's an engine building game. So and you have all these dice that you're rolling. So each player gets 3 dice, and these dice.
Yeah, there's more tokens.
Yeah,
oh boy.
Many more tokens. These dice represent the 3 actions that you'll take each turn, and then with this money, you can buy additional actions.
Okay.
But when you're taking your turn, everyone starts off by rolling their dice, and then you start to take your actions in turn order.
Okay.
I think it says that the last person who finished a beer goes first.
Okay.
It's one of those games.
So I never get to go first.
You never get to go first. Or you can just do a house rule and just roll a 6-sided die or something. But all right, so you roll your dice, and each side of each dice has, of course, 6 sides, and each side is a little bit different. So you have calendar events. You can collect wheat, which you need to brew your beer. You can pick up a flavor card. You can actually brew a beer, or at the end of all that, you need a clean.
Okay.
So you are limited with the amount of times that you can brew in each month.
Sure.
But because it is an engine building game, there are definitely turns where you can start to combo off, where as you kind of rank up in beers, you unlock extra cleaning steps, you can buy extra cleaning steps. So there was one round where I was able to brew 4 times after only having 2 brewing available, because I was able to go up the ladder, unlock something that allowed me to clean twice without paying anything.
So it's your tech tree.
Yeah, basically it's like a tech tree. And it's a tech tree for the 4 different types of beer.
Okay. So are you basically collecting the ingredients that you need to build a beer and trying to roll dice to take the actions to put those together in time to beat the other players, effectively?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So the game takes place over 8 rounds or 8 months. You start off in March, and then you go all the way until Oktoberfest.
Okay.
And in the middle of the year, there is Summerfest, which allows you to kind of really start to get up in the point rankings. And the point rankings, I believe, are called prestige.
Sure.
And at the end of the game, you want to have the most prestige. So you want to have brewed the best and most beer to eventually be crowned.
So to win, you want the most points.
Yes, exactly.
Innovative.
Very innovative in board game design. Now, the way that I played it is the way they recommend starting off, where everyone has similar abilities to brew all the different types of beer, but you also have, for an expanded game, character cards.
You have the option to play the hipster.
Exactly. So Colt Roberts, the hipster, they have different types of actions. So Colt Roberts, he can work the crowd. So you can pay $1 to take any one reveal top calendar action.
Okay.
Which usually is giving you some really, really cool opportunities to brew more beer or pick up more flavor cards, and then you can actually discard flavors you don't want to get an immediate reward.
Sure.
So there is a fair amount of strategy in the game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like a resource management kind of engine build.
Yes.
You building an engine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're building an engine, and
So a resource management engine building game about brewing beer, but with a heavier randomized component than a lot of these games might have.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there definitely is.
I do like these tokens being, different kind of like traditional alcoholic beverage consumption containers.
Yeah.
You can tell that I'm hip with all the lingo.
Like you have one thing that could be and you can also like flip them on either side. So this could be.
Oh, this was a wine glass the whole time.
Well, it could be a wine
that's
glass or a
right.
tasting glass, or it could be like a sake bottle or something like that.
I would assume they were all sake bottles. I'm just bad at this.
Honestly, when you do flip over a glass, it always does kind of look like a sake bottle. You just can't pour anything in, obviously. But yeah, Homebrewers, really great game, and it does take a little bit to play. I believe they say about 75 minutes, and yeah, a little while to set up as well. So definitely something that you kind of dedicate some time to learn and get good at.
So what about the spite level? How much interaction is there between players?
So there's a good amount of interaction because there's actually a dice trading mechanic where once per turn you go to the local Brewers Club and you talk to people and you can trade your dice.
Okay.
And if someone really needs wheat, you can just make sure that nobody trades wheat with them so that they don't get to brew. Or if you're first in the turn order and you know that the person to the left of you needs wheat, I'm just going to keep saying wheat, needs more wheat to keep brewing, you can specifically use your flavor card to pick up any available wheat card and just get it for yourself and start stockpiling wheat.
Okay.
There's also opportunities to kind of jump ahead in other people on the kind of tech tree of beer and lock them out of getting first place.
Tech tree of beer.
Yes.
All right. What do you want to do next?
All right, we can do Lavinia. Lavinia is similarly alcoholic in that you are an heir to a vineyard and you and the other players are heirs. And in order to actually receive the vineyard and start to make money off of it.
What happened in this vineyard territory to have, 2 to 6 people all die at the same time and have heirs pop up?
I think there's one person who died and then a bunch of heirs popped up.
Oh,
but in the will, it was said that the person who can basically make the most deliveries to the wineries and make the most money, they're going to get the vineyard from here on out.
Okay.
And in Lavinia, it's actually a little similar to Parks, another new release I know you all covered, in that you have this track that you're going down with meeples, and you can't stop in a box or in this little space that someone else is in. I know there's some other games that have a similar mechanic, but as you move down, you have to be a little bit strategic with, well, I don't want to move all the way to the end, even though there's a card I really need there, because somebody else can just hop over me to the end, or I can't go back.
Okay.
And it's a game for 2 to 5 people as well. Or actually, I think there is a solo mode. Whoops, is there a solo mode?
No.
No solo mode. All right, so a game for about 2 to 5 people.
But why are there 2 blue and 2 red meeples?
So I don't know.
Okay.
I think when I played with 3 people, I believe I read that when you have 2 players, each person gets 2 meeples.
Got it. That makes sense.
To kind of fill up the board a little bit more. On each side of the board are the vines, and so the vines are inhabited by 4 different types of grapes. There's Cabernet, Pinot. I don't know wine. I know beer a lot better than that. Pinot, Garnacha.
Yep.
And then Chardonnay.
Oh man.
There we go. I saw it, unfortunately.
Cheater.
You can also, because the vineyard's
You're the
kind
wine
of like,
trader.
because the vineyard's in a little bit of disrepair, there are vines that just don't have any grapes, but oftentimes those vines have item cards. And you can use items like shears or a built hook or boots to get cards you wouldn't normally get.
This maybe explains why the person who died is having the dumbest way to find their heir, is that they just left their shears and their supplies in the vineyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they should have put it away.
Yeah, maybe, but then you wouldn't be able to use it. I do like the idea, though, of like you're just trying to clean up trash and you see these rusty shears and you're like, well, I could really use these. Yeah. So in Lavinia, there are each player gets a certain amount of delivery tokens. And as you're making your way down the track, you're picking up grapes to put in your basket, which you then deliver at the end of the track to the wineries.
So we would have cards kind of laid out like this, right?
Exactly. You have 2 cards
would they be face up
laid
like
out.
this?
Face up.
Okay.
And then 1 card on the bottom so that you can't see the tool, but you can only see the type of grape.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And as you progress down, you can choose any available card. So it has to be on top because you can actually pick it up that way.
So then, like this, the red player or the yellow player would be able to grab either of these?
Yes, exactly. So the red or yellow could grab either of these two.
Okay.
Let's think. As you're progressing down the track, you have to put stuff into your basket, but you can run out of room in your basket. So there are times where you have to just dump your entire basket, which is also kind of a funny sight, and then start to collect grapes that you need. But once you finish your last delivery, the other players have to finish their last delivery as well. So while there is some strategy in dawdling to, possibly make 2 or 3 deliveries in a later round, another person can really rush the game to make sure that you don't get to make that delivery.
Okay. So you said this was kind of like Parks?
Yeah, kind of like Parks.
Overall, or just because of that track mechanic?
Mainly just the track mechanic. But when you do get to the end, you are spending resources to make deliveries. So kind of similar in that you're visiting those parks.
And these are your baskets. Okay.
And you can always trade in and buy a basket, but there are limited or a tub, yeah. Which is, can you imagine just little old me carrying this huge tub with 4 deliveries of grapes on it?
So are these victory cards that you would end up getting points for, basically?
Yeah, so those are the wineries.
Okay.
So each winery is specifically looking for different types of grapes. So one winery is looking to make a wine from Garnacha. Another winery is looking for a Cabernet blend. And if there's a blend, you want the majority of the stated grape, but then you need other types of grapes to be blended in.
Cool.
And then you get the number of points it says on the delivery, and the person with the most points or these little tokens, they win the game. But you can also buy the baskets with these tokens as well. So there's a little bit of an economy where you're not sure if you want to be spending things to get a tub, even though it'll help you later on, because it could be points that win you the game.
Cool. Great. And how long does this play?
It was about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Learning it.
So the back of the box was actually accurate.
Yeah, it was actually accurate. That being said, learning it, it is a surprisingly kind of thick rule book for how simple the game is. I would recommend, if you want to teach this game to someone, read the full rule book a couple of times and then try to go in and teach it with someone.
Okay.
I was trying to read the rule book with someone sitting across the table from me, and that's never a good idea, but just especially with this game, there's a lot of little details. Bad. Yeah, it was just double bad. But yeah, it was about 45 minutes once we got into it.
Great, awesome.
And that was the first playthrough, so now that we have a handle on it, we could go down to 40 minutes, 30, depending on how fast you go.
Well, wine games are a very classic theme. So cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty neat one.
Yeah, and so Walls of York, if we wanted to move over to that one.
Sure.
So Walls of York.
Go from wine to castles.
Yes, wine to castles. Walls of York is a ton of fun. It was actually the first board game I played when I started this job at Blue Highway Games. And I did horrible at it, but I've gotten a little bit better. So it is basically a roll and build type of game, where you take 3 dice and you roll them down this little castle here. And depending on the numbers that show up in the little slots, that's going to tell you how many of each thing you need. So it's going to say you need to have 4 churches, 2 wells, and 4 houses in your town. And then the rest of the game is you rolling this big red dice here to see how you can place walls around a game board that already has those components included.
Okay.
And you want to avoid barbarians because the person with the most barbarians starts to lose points.
Okay. So I'm building, so this is like our plot of land that I as a player would have. Each player would have their own, is that right?
Exactly. Each player has their own plot of land.
Okay.
And it is, each player will have actually the same kind of layout. And that layout is randomly determined at the start of the game.
Okay. So these are, what are these?
So,
these are the tiles?
Yeah, these are the tiles. So each person is going to have a tile, like one distinct tile of each kind of signifier. So this is like a diamond tile. This is a, I don't know, is blue topaz, like a little blue tile, things like that. And so you want to have one of each. So you'd have like this, and then I have blue, and then I think there's like a yellow and a yellow.
Okay.
So this would, and then however one is set up, everyone else's game boards are set up the same way.
Okay.
And then I would roll this red dice if it's my turn. And I would build in the formation that it tells me to build. So this wants me to make a little thing that looks like walls that are hugging a person. So you build walls like this.
U-shape.
Yeah, U-shape. Yeah, that's what it's called. So you'd build
the hugging wall.
The hugging wall. You'd build a little U-shape, and then you just want to build out a city that has the least amount of barbarians, but the correct amount of houses, churches, and wells that the tower told you to build at the beginning of the game.
What is that?
So once one person completes their city and fully walls in their whatever they want in here, then every other dice roll that someone else is doing before they complete their town, you're going to be getting these amount of gold pieces. So if you're the first or second person to finish in a game of 4, you're going to start collecting a lot of gold pieces as others are trying to finish there.
So basically, at the start of the game, we're just going to do this.
Exactly.
So now, this says we need, 5 churches, 2 wells, and 2 shacks?
Yeah, 2 shacks, 2 houses.
Okay, so then this is what we need to win or to finish, to be able to finish?
This is what you need to be able to finish your town.
Okay, so then, you roll that, and then we roll another U. So then you just build another 3-wall segment somewhere.
Exactly.
Like this. And that is me marking off that shack, basically.
Exactly.
And then, let's just say theoretically, I did that. I have now finished a town with a well of
a barbarian
and a shack.
And you wouldn't. That would be bad to do because you don't have the the correct amount. But yes, once you have a fully walled in location, then that's going to be your town.
So it basically it seems exactly like a roll and write.
Yes.
But instead of writing, you're building.
Exactly.
So the whole roll and build thing that you started off with makes a whole lot more sense now.
Yes, exactly. It's a roll and write, but you're just putting 3D pieces on a game board.
Cool.
Yeah. There's not a ton else to say about Walls of York other than when you have more barbarians, you lose badly. So don't have barbarians in your city.
And not a whole lot of spite, it seems like.
No, not a whole lot of spite. You're just trying to finish your city and do your thing the best you can.
But everybody has the same board, and when you roll, everybody also has to build that same way?
Exactly.
Okay. So everybody has the same kind of chances and opportunities.
Yes, everyone has the same chances and opportunities, and so if you, like me, are kind of bad at these building games, or if it was your first time playing, you can just kind of look across to see what other people are doing and try to copy them a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
What does prevent somebody from just copying another player? Is there anything?
Nothing. No, honestly, nothing that I know of. I think that. Yeah, really, because I think you could
some
probably.
roll and writes hide their stuff.
Yeah, in this at least, we didn't hide it, and I don't believe the instructions ask you to hide anything.
Okay.
And it would also be a little tough to hide the big game board with the 3D pieces. So.
Sure. Cool.
All right.
Well, I mean, this definitely seems like it's roll and write kind of to the next level.
Yes.
Roll and write plus.
And the next game, Era, is roll and build to another level. So Era is a new game from I think Matt Leacock. Leacock? Yeah, Matt Leacock, who did Roll Through the Ages. And in Era, you are constructing a Spanish medieval city. And it is.
Looks like Javion would like this.
Yeah, it is a. It's a roll and write where.
Still finding more dice.
Yes. Oh, there's many more dice, I think. Or is this it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, this is it, finally. Okay. So you have a lot of dice. You're going to be rolling these dice for resources, and then you're constructing a city with monasteries and universities and farms on a 3D printed game board. And just for sustainability reasons, it's really awesome that you have this plastic piece that you get to reuse constantly. And you have little pegs that go into this. So it's kind of fun. It's like Battleship when you're putting a piece in. But every turn, everyone at once will roll their dice. And there's also an element of like Yahtzee where you can re-roll any dice that isn't a disaster dice up to 2 other times.
Okay.
So you can try to make sure you get exactly what you want. And then because there is a random element, you can offset that randomness by building specific buildings that allow you to set a dice roll, or allow you to set a dice or die and not have to re-roll it. The game will end when 3 of these different types of buildings are gone. So you're building with essentially like infinite resources, but there's a finite amount of things that you can do with those resources. So you can't really just be saving up things constantly. You really want to be building and try to make sure that you have this city built up.
So are you trying, what is the goal? Are you trying to fulfill certain objectives, or?
The goal is at the end of the, just at the end of your rounds, you have the most amount of victory points. Each building rewards a certain amount of victory points, and if the building is walled in, so right now we wouldn't be able to wall in because it's up to the back right here.
Sure.
But if it's completely walled in, it actually doubles the points.
Okay.
So there's a couple strategies. You can really focus on culture buildings, which are the white buildings. Those are the monastery, church, things like that. And that allows you to set new dice rolls, or new die rolls, so you can make sure you get exactly what you want. And it offsets any disasters that you might have, because culture and disaster right here on the side of the track, they add or subtract points. You can make it so that you have a really small city with like big money items in the middle of that city so that they get double points. So all these big buildings are going to be worth the most. But then you have all your little farms and houses elsewhere, kind of away from the walled city, so you're away from the peasants, because it's not as worth it to double up a farm if it's going to take up a lot of space.
Sure.
And you also have to deal with the fact that if you cluster things, you're going to, if you roll a certain amount of disaster dice, which are the dice with little skulls on them, your city could be razed, you could have disease spread through your city, and you start to lose points that way.
Okay. Are these disaster tiles or something?
Yeah, so those are disaster tiles. So when another player rolls 5 disaster dice, with the little skulls, they get to give each player a little raised token like this. That player then has to place this somewhere on their map.
Okay.
The player who's placing it gets to decide where to put it. So you don't get to really be spiteful and say like, I want to raise your monastery, but you can really go for those 5 skull dice to make sure that they don't have the space that they need to build their stuff.
So do you get the dice based on what buildings you built?
Yeah, so you start off with 3 yellow dice and then 1 gray dice, or die, and then you start to get other die from your buildings. So I believe a monastery will give you, or a church will give you a white die. A monastery will just let you set these die. Another keep, which are these big kind of tower things, will give you another gray die. And so you can kind of build out your strategy to know that, well, I want to focus on attacking people. So I want as many gray die as possible to give me as many swords as possible, which at the end of the round, swords are compared to shields, and anyone with a higher sword count than others get to attack those players and take 1 resource.
Okay, cool. It never occurred to me to do effectively a roll and write with physical components.
Yeah.
So this seems like a very intriguing direction to take it.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's very sustainable because you just have this game board. You don't have to be going through all these pieces of paper, and I like the pieces. They're pretty, and if you really want,
there's definitely a battleship element of slotting them in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just very rewarding to slot it in there, and it works really well.
Cool. I can definitely see, because this was a big another one.
This one.
Oh yeah, I'll trade you. Oh boy.
We got there.
Ruin Overboard. This was a big one at Gen Con, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and I hadn't had a chance to kind of look at it and see why, and I can definitely tell why people were excited to pick it up at the show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend at least coming in and trying it out. After you learn it and you get through the first couple of rounds, it starts to go a lot quicker, but it definitely is an hour-plus game.
Very neat. And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, I see how they cleverly angled this board to make it impossible to pick up. All right, let's see if I can pack this away properly.
All right.
And I think that's about it. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for
bringing all these
me.
games. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Blue Highway or your new arrival? rival to Seattle or anything like that?
Yeah, sure.
before
Well,
we
I'm
go?
loving Seattle. If the Twitch chat has any recommendations.
Now I want a Twitch hat.
Yeah, now we want
Someone
Twitch
give me a
hats.
Twitch hat.
If you have any recommendations for places to go, let me know.
Well,
But
apparently
yeah,
Blue
come
Highway
down
Games
to,
should be high on their list to recommend to people.
Yes, yeah. Come on down to Blue Highway Games. Our fall events lineup is in full swing. After this, I'm actually immediately going over to Friday Night Magic for kids. So anyone 18 and under can come and play Friday Night Magic. It is fun, it's loud, and it's a really great learning
I think
environment.
you mean Friday afternoon Magic?
It's more Friday afternoon Magic. We don't want them to stay up too late. But we also have Thursday night drafts for adults. We have board game challenges every month, beer and board games. It's a really great place. And you can actually go to our website, bluehighwaygames.com, and check out our event schedule.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you to Blue Highway for sending you our way. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around in chat and watching the games and seeing what came out this week. We will be back next week with another new release rundown, but we'll also have table takes just before that. Monday night, we will have Brothers Murph, and on Wednesday, we have Fireside with Peter Atkinson. I think this past week, he interviewed Richard Garfield. That should be up on YouTube right now. Will in production is nodding vigorously, so apparently it was a very good episode. I was absent, so I was not here. But you should check all those out. Everything goes up on YouTube, so watch us there if you are not able to catch us live on Twitch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.